Hey sci-fi fans, in this installment of Sci-Fi Review, we're going to be talking about 2001: A Space Odyssey in 4K. Really awesome. Stay tuned. So if you've never heard of 2001: Space Odyssey, you've been living under a rock as far as sci-fi is concerned for the last 50 years. I mean, this movie came out in 1968. It is probably one of the, I don't know what you want to call it, sci-fi classics, cornerstones of sci-fi cinema. I mean, there's really not much more, there's really nothing better you can get than Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke collaborating on a movie of this scale, of this just plain epicness. So there's a lot of people out there who think that this movie is incredibly pretentious. They think it's boring. They don't get it. It's because it's not exciting. It's not full of space ships fighting and aliens and whatever. You know, it's so much more than that. It is a. This is all my opinion. I'm not out there. I have never read 2001: A Space Odyssey. I know. Sue me, write me nasty letters. I've never read it. I don't know why, to be honest. I've always wanted to. I've just never done it. Considering that Arthur C. Clarke collaborated with Kubrick on the screenplay, and I'm going to put this thing down right now. For this movie, I don't feel like I'm missing a whole lot. I think if there was important parts that needed to be in the movie, then Clarke would have told Kubrick, hey, that's got to be in there. I don't know. I'm not a expert on the lore of 2001. I just know I enjoy the movie because it is a spectacle of moving pictures and sound as art, and it's also science fiction. Well, we'll get to the story. I'm not going to go over the story too much. That's something you need to experience for yourself. See if you can figure out what's going on, what you interpret it all as. That's part of the glory about this movie, is that there's really no one right answer. Oh, this is supposed to be that. That's supposed to be this. You interpret however you want. So this movie starts out this rather long musical prelude, if I guess you want to call it. I think that's the correct term. And I say musical because it's very esoteric. I don't want to say noise, but it's not your typical soundtrack. It's very weird. Let's just put it that way. And it's just black, and it's this sound, and that is the start of your 2001 experience. And then it starts out at the dawn of man, is I think the title of that first act. And it's prehistoric men, basically apes at this point. There's like two tribes of them out there doing what they can to survive. It's pretty clear that that's all this is about. This tribe wakes up one morning, there's this big black monolith in front of them, and they're like, oh, freaked out in suitably apish ways. But the important part is, number one, it's pointing straight at the moon. Number two, it gives one of these apes some knowledge. He picks up a bone, realizes, hey, I can use this bone as a tool to kill my pigs to be able to eat them easier, but it also becomes a weapon to kill members of this other tribe. And just kind of a technology. This is where the interpretation of this movie comes in. This is the technology. It's a double-edged sword. We use it to make our lives better. We use it to improve our lives, but it can also be used to kill. And that's kind of the first act, but you got to remember the whole thing with the moon. This point, this is the beginning, 4 million years in our past of what exactly? Well, he throws the bone into the air. We see it spiraling around on its way back down. We suddenly change to the year 2001. Now, yeah, we've all been to 2001, right? It was not actually like this, unfortunately. It is what it is, right? To this spaceship flying in orbit, and this whole, it's a rather lengthy sequence, but it's one of the most gorgeous sequences ever put in film, in my opinion, with this spaceship coming into dock with this space station, and it engages in this dance. And throughout this whole sequence, the Blue Danube Waltz is playing, and that's all the sound we hear. Now, this is where people start to go, what the hell? But you just sit there and you watch this and you listen to this, and you're not supposed to be thinking, well, what's going on? Who's on the spaceship? Why are they going there? You're just watching this unfold and listening to this music and realizing, this is, everything is not, related to everything theories and someone's so related to what. This is just, it's just art, people. Come on, roll with it. Just watch it and enjoy it for what you're seeing. So on this ship is a guy named Dr. Haywood Floyd. He's on his way to a moon base to, and I'm really shrinking this part, this second act with Floyd in the moon base here. I'm really shrinking it down. He's going to this moon base. This top secret thing going on. Turns out there's another one of these monoliths buried in the lunar surface for 4 million years. It was probably put there the same time as the other one. They get down there. It all of a sudden starts emitting this real high frequency, sound thing. Everybody's doing this number, but you notice it's pointing back out into space again. Where is it pointing? 18 months later, we find the Discovery. Spaceship on a mission to Jupiter with 2 guys on board. You've got Frank Poole and Dave Bowman. Now this is where it starts to get interesting, is you've also got a bunch of other scientists there in their little cryopods hibernating for this trip because it's a long trip. But you've also got HAL 9000, the super AI computer brain intelligence that runs this ship. Now it's basically self-aware at this point, which is kind of scary in itself, but and this is where I'm not going to spoil it too much. I'm not going to explain every little nuance about this. One thing leads to another, as they say, and Frank gets killed. Dave goes to get him, comes back. Hal won't let him back on the ship, so Dave does this thing with the emergency airlock. It's a pretty awesome sequence. The silence, where there's sequences have all special sound effects, this is just pure silence, and watch Dave explode himself from the pod back into the ship. It's a really neat sequence, in my opinion. But he gets back on the ship. He shuts down Hal in another lengthy sequence where Hal, this is where part of this sequence is that Hal, is we are giving Hal his intelligence and we are basically bringing Hal to life, right? And so it's also, we give him this knowledge, kind of like the apes got that knowledge back in the day. And Hal's a computer. He can't handle it. He doesn't know what to do. That's how come Frank dies. How come he tries to kill Dave. But Hal gets shut down. He has this big, long, lengthy death scene, basically, where his life is flashing before his eyes. He's going through all the stages. He's threatening Dave. He turns into, the pleading, please, Dave, don't hurt me. Don't kill me. And then all of a sudden, he's like, reverted back to his very first, his whole life flashes before his eyes. Hal dies, and then suddenly a message comes on from Dr. Haywood Floyd. Oh, by the way, this is top secret. Only your computer knew about this, but the whole point of this mission is you're going to find this other monolith that's out there in orbit around Jupiter. Oh, okay, that's cool. So the last act of this movie, Jupiter, Infinity, and Beyond, I believe it was, is basically Dave Bowman going into this monolith, and this is just my take on it, having all the entire secrets of the universe revealed to him, all these different places, all what has happened, and what, just so much stuff. You see him in some of these still shots, his human brain can't handle all this information, right? It ends with him in this very ornate room, watching, a third-person view of himself growing old, eventually dying and being reborn, overlooking the earth. This is the part that everybody goes, I don't get it. What the hell? Yeah, and even now, I'm sitting there watching this going, I still don't get it. Maybe if I read the book, it would be more obvious. I don't know. But that's basically the story of this movie. That's the story. But that's not why you should be watching this movie. You should be watching it because it is such an amazing thing for the eyes and ears. It is, for 1968 special effects, it is freaking brilliant. Let's just put it that way. Doug Trimble, I think, was the supervisor for the effects on this movie, and in 1968, you can't do any better than what they did here. You just can't, from everything. This is none of it, well, I say none of it, computer-generated imagery, CGI stuff. It's, maybe there's some of that going on there, but it's all, photographic effects, it's all miniatures, it's all other stuff, real craftsmanship type of stuff. That's why you should be watching this movie. But we gotta get back to this. Now, this is the most recent release of the movie. I believe this came out 2018. It is a complete restoration from an original 70mm print. I have the Blu-ray of this, not the 4K, but the regular Blu-ray, and I want to say that that was, while it was good, it still had a lot of grain in it. It still was okay, but this is freaking crystal clear. I couldn't tell if it was grainy at all, and I'm not sure if I really liked that or not, because part of a film is you've got a certain amount of that kind of muddy texture to it, and you can tell, oh, that was from a film. On this, not so much. I mean, I've got all my digital enhancements and noise filters and crap turned off on my TV. I hate that stuff. It makes everything look like a soap opera. Turn all that crap off, and this still looks like it came out yesterday. And I don't know if that's just a byproduct of this restoration, or if they did some, whatever that is, in their, you know, post-production to clean up all the noise, all the grain. But this thing is crystal clear. The UHD, the color depth in this thing, I've never seen this movie look like this, because some of these scenes with the colors, the ending act especially, from the time he hits that monolith all the way through to the end, is just, you're just in front of the screen just going, whoa, that's impressive. There's other scenes like spaceship cockpits where I didn't realize just how much color depth, you know, across the entire spectrum is in these scenes, and it just really pops out at you, and it's really, really amazing. Now, the other part of this 4K is the audio. I listened to the, I think it's DTS HD. It's not Atmos, but it was still what I think it would have sounded like, you know, in a movie theater. It wasn't all the full 9 yards. You know, I've got a 9.1 Atmos capable sound system that does DTS HD. You weren't getting a lot of, you know, sound effects and things coming in. It was all everything up front like you hear in a movie theater, but the backs were kind of a ambiance, reverb, I don't know what you want to call it, but they were there, you could hear them, but everything was mainly up front, and it sounded like it were trying to estimate what it would have sounded like in a theater in the day. This also has the original 2-channel audio, which I'm gonna, next time I watch it, I'm gonna listen to that and see how different it is. I don't know. But other than that, there's really not much else in this. There's not a lot of special features. It's, you know, 4K and regular Blu-ray. $25 on Amazon. I mean, you spend more than that going to the bar on Friday night, right, guys? I mean, this is, how long is this again? 150 minutes, I want to say. Why do they make this stuff so hard to see on here? Would you believe I can't find the runtime on the back of this disc? Oh, there's 149 minutes. So 2.5 hours. I was thinking it was closer to, well, I said 150 minutes, didn't I? So pretty good guess. It's 2.5 hours. If you go into this expecting action and lots of mystery and drama and whatnot, you're not going to find it, and you're going to be disappointed. What you need to be going for is the bigger picture. You need to be going for just the experience of the sound. I mean, even the totally black spots where it's just music playing, if you watch this, watch all the way through the credits till the very last note is played on this. There's a whole extended sequence past the end of the credits where it's, I believe it's the Blue Danube again, and it just plays out till the very end of that piece, and you just sit there and watch that. And with the 9.1 audio, you should turn it up a little bit more than you used to, and find all the other audio sources and turn them off. I found myself cursing my HVAC and my refrigerator because a lot of this movie is silent and very quiet, and that thing's going off in the background. And it's like, no, what's going on? And there's a big range in here. It can go from dead silent to very loud at some of these crescendos in the music, and these other events, like when he comes out of that pod. But you should turn it up like that, because that dynamic range, when you music especially for the music. So what am I giving this? I mean, I'm rating this a 4.7. I mean, I'm going that high with this movie and this presentation package deal here. This is the best I've ever seen this movie look, and you should absolutely go buy a copy of this immediately if you have a decent 4K setup. This has been Sci-Fi Review.